Hey guys, welcome to Big Laws Official. You can see from the effort that I've gone to today who I'm talking to, the one and only Rob Kearney. How you doing, my friend?
I am great and unbelievably jealous of the current, what you went through for this call. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I haven't had a glitter beard since 2018, but I might need to step it up now.
Well, this is in honor of when you came over and you had your glitter beard. I just say my house now is covered in glitter. Liz is covered in glitter. The cat is covered in glitter. It's the last time, the one and only time I'm doing this, but I wanted to make an effort, especially just for you.
It's going to be like that for months, so just get ready.
Liz has got a lot of tidying up to do. Anyway, my friend, how are you? How have you been keeping?
I'm doing really well. Fortunately, through this entire craziness that we're living in the world right now, I've been able to keep my job. So working from home, which has actually been kind of nice and reducing the stress level. I've had a private place to train, so I haven't missed out on too much training, which is also good. And yeah, just excited for this coming weekend.
Yeah, we can start with this weekend if you like, because you do have the log lift record coming up this weekend as part of the World Ultimate Strongman series. You're going for the American record?
Yeah, so I currently hold the American record, which I took from Oberst back in August or April of 2018 at Europe's Strongest Man, with a lift of 214. And the plan is to just break it and put it up a little bit higher this weekend.
Is it just going to be the American record that you go for, or have you got your sights set on that world record attempt as well?
So I think it's just going to be the American record this weekend. I had a really great training session this past weekend. Actually hit 215 this past Saturday. The plan is to go for 216 this coming weekend.
So, sorry,
And
just to interrupt you. So your record is your record 214? Is that right?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
cool. Yeah.
So, bested it a little bit this past weekend, and the plan is to go 216 this coming weekend. And I think it's a good and a bad problem because this weekend we're actually going to be on ESPN again for my log press record, which is really exciting. And so just due to time constraints, there won't be enough time for a fourth attempt on TV. So we'll just do the three, but I feel really good. And I think, the world record is certainly within range.
There's so many of you now, like up at that kind of world record level. I mean, obviously we saw Luke, who he came so close to getting the record. You've got Iron Bibby putting ridiculous numbers up in training. Graham Hicks, another incredible log lifter who's been keeping pretty quiet, to be honest, but I know he's got his sights set on the world record as well. You throw yourself into that mix, Kilias Koski, a number of other guys as well that maybe aren't as well known across the board, but they're log specialists. They're really, really good on that event. But you are arguably the lightest of the lot. I think you give away, I mean, Iron Bibby's what, 190, 200 kilos? He's such a huge man. Luke's up at 160. Hicksy's around the 160 mark. But how much are you at the moment?
Sitting at a hefty 128.
Okay, it's still a big man. I mean, we get kind of ahead of ourselves with strongman. We talk about people being small when they're 130 kilos, but you're still a big man compared to the normal, if you like. But in the giant world that we live in, you are relatively small. I mean, just quickly tell people your kind of height, your weight. Obviously, we know the weight, but how tall?
So I'm 5'10", like I said, about 128 kilos. And, I think the cool thing is, I've made my way through the ranks of the sport. So I competed U90, I competed 105, and kind of went through the whole kind of amateur circuit in the world of strongman to get to this point competing at the heavyweight.
Well, that's a really good point, good area for us to start with anyway, because, I want to get the history of you as a lifter. Obviously, we kind of, we hear a lot about you being like the only or openly gay athlete, despite my beard today. But let's go back to what got you into strongman in the first place and training, I guess, in general. I mean, how old were you when you first set foot in a gym?
I was about 14 years old when I first started kind of working out. And that was just when I was in high school, just because I had walked by it and I started playing American football. So kind of weightlifting through that sport and really just found a loving for it my senior year. So when I was about 17 years old is when I started taking it a little bit more seriously. And I would go to the gym before school in the morning. So I would go to the gym around 5 a.m. Before school and train at a CrossFit gym, actually. And really found out quickly that I was horrible at CrossFit. but I was, I really enjoyed lifting the heavier stuff and, really found a loving for the barbell lifts and getting stronger. And it was through that gym that they actually signed me up for my first strongman competition when I was 17 years old. I had never done it. I had never even trained it. I'd only seen it on TV. Went to the contest. I was, the youngest athlete by about 8 or 9 years. Completely got annihilated. I took last place, but I fell in love with the sport.
That's, I mean, you were really young. I mean, I just recently had Zadrunas on, who also was extremely young, but there's not many of the guys that started that young. Myself, I didn't start training in the gym till I was 21. And I know many of the guys that started later, but you've kind of started right at the bottom. I was naturally a big, strong man, so I had that kind of frame from a lot of sporting background. But at 17, you haven't matured yet. So to be stepping foot in competition against fully grown men, it must have been. Was it intimidating?
Yeah, I was terrified. Here I am, I was, I played sports in school, but I was never that good. I was slightly above average, if that. And, so for me, I was kind of this decently athletic, chubby kid that was just coming onto the stage to see what I could do and just have some fun. Fortunately, you and I both know the culture of the sport of strongman is just so amazing that every lifter there was so supportive and so excited to see me there. And it didn't matter how I was doing in each event; they were still cheering for me just because I was a 17-year-old kid at this contest trying out the sport.
Yeah, I think that is one of the amazing things about this sport is the support that everyone gives each other, right? Especially at that lower level, to be honest, because I've been to so many contests where people are, to be quite honest, they're out of their depth. But when people are trying and they're giving 100% on everything, people just get behind you. I'd rather get behind a trier than someone who's pretty strong, but you can see they're being lazy. And
Yeah.
you see that sometimes when you travel around, you see some certain contests. I'll see this guy, and he's obviously a big, strong guy, but you can see as soon as it starts hurting, they give up. Whereas maybe sometimes, and particularly if you want to be good at strongman, you've got to be able to dig deep and prove that you can go through those pain barriers because as well as I do, this sport is tough, mentally as well as physically. We put our bodies through it. And if you don't like pain or you can't handle pain, it's not the sport for you.
No, and that's, we always joke around that, I think all of us in this sport, we all have to have something messed up a little bit in our heads to enjoy doing this. When we look at a truck and we're like, oh, that looks like it's fun to pull. I think there's something there's something wrong with us a little bit, but it is one of the most amazing parts of the sport. Like you said, to get that camaraderie and see those people cheering for you and really just pushing for you, and not necessarily to win, just to do your best. I think that's the coolest part.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the great thing for me I'm sort of at the end of my career now, and I look back, and I actually think the friendships that I've made with some of the guys is much better than some of the victories that I've had. We've become good friends. I know you're friends with a number of the British athletes, actually. We often, the Americans and the English guys often get on pretty well with each other. You're good friends with the Stoltmans, it is nice because we all know how we put our body through it week in, week out in the gym. So when we see each other, we're all going to compete hard. And you and me have, we've been head to head a number of times, and we'll give it our absolute all on the field. But then afterwards, we're best friends again, and kind of, going out and, and having a good time. So it's a
Yeah,
unique sport in that respect.
yeah, the coolest thing is too, all of us, we want to beat each other when we're at our best. So I think that's where that mutual respect comes from. We're all going through the same stuff at every single contest. So that's why, in between events where we're sitting there, we're having a drink together, we're eating together, we're enjoying the company. But, you and I both know when that whistle blows, it's game time. There's a lot on the line at all these shows. And, we're able to kind of flip that switch pretty easily, but then also still cheer each other on during the event.
Oh,
So it's one of the coolest, weirdest, most amazing things, like you said, to like have these friendships with these guys from all over the world, and really just wanting to see everybody succeed.
yeah, yeah. It really is a unique sport in that respect. Um, and I mean, your transition from, I mean, what did you say you started off at when you were 17? What you weighing? You were competing in the under 90 kilo
Yeah, so I
classes.
was competing like, yeah, under 90, like 200 pounds.
So you've really kind of worked your way up because, I mean, there's some guys that come from the under 105s. I think you must be one of the few guys that's managed to come up right from the under 90 kilo categories to compete successfully as a heavyweight? Because I mean, when people look at the top guys right now, you've got like the likes of Hafthor Bjornsson, Brian Shaw, Eddie was a huge man. I mean, now we've got Lissis and Kilias Koski, who are slightly smaller, but when you see them in person, they're still big, thick-set men, huge wrists. They're big guys. For you to come up and be competitive, it is, a testament to how hard you've worked. You've got
Yeah,
that
yeah. So
determination.
yeah, I competed U90 from 2009 to 2011. In 2011, it was my first year at the Amateur National Championships here in the U.S. And they break that up into two weight categories for the lightweight. So there's there's the overall, which is 231 and under, but then there's the subcategory of the 200 or U90 class. And I went there with no expectations, had a blast, and ended up taking second place. And realized then, I was like, okay, well, I was cutting from about 100 kilos down to 90, so it was a little bit of a tough cut. So that's when I jumped up to the 105s.
Yeah.
And ended up winning the Amateur National Championship in 2013 to turn pro in the 105 class, and stayed in that class until 2016, actually. So 2017 was my first year competing in the open heavyweight division.
Well, it's interesting because you may have seen, I just did a video recently saying, can smaller guys be successful in strongman? And one of the things people were often saying was that there's smaller weight classes for guys like that. And my argument to that was, yes, there is, but eventually you all want to test yourself against the absolute best. And you're a great example of that. You've decided, okay, I won the under 105s, but that's not good enough. I want to step up and compete with the big boys. Has that always been your kind of game plan, is to be the best you can possibly be?
Yeah, it was I never got into the sport with the goal of competing at Worlds or going to the Arnold. That was never really my goal. My goal was to have fun and just see what I could do. I never thought I'd be making a living doing this sport. So for me, it was just kind of setting those small attainable goals that I knew I could achieve. And that path was just kind of like laying the brickwork and getting me to the point where I am. Like it's taken me 11 years to get to this point. So it hasn't been a short journey whatsoever, but never in that journey did I get, upset with myself that I was always motivated by something to push me forward. So, like I said, like even when I started the sport back in 2009, I wasn't good. I actually took last place in the first 8 competitions I did. And, my first goal was, well, don't take last place. And then it was small incremental. It was okay. Then don't zero an event, get on the podium, so on and so forth. And it wasn't until about that 2016 mark where, even in 2016, I thought I was still going to be competing in the 105s for the rest of my career, because I didn't think I could get that much bigger. And in 2016, I actually got the invite to compete at the log lift championships in Lithuania with Zadrunas. And I went to that show. I was only about 112 kilos. I had no expectations, and I won. I beat Vitas Blakaitis, I beat Graham Hicks, I beat Dimitar Sabatinov, I beat Vytautas Lalas. And that was, it was actually at that contest where Joey looked at me and said, "Oh, so I guess you are pretty good at this."
You're pretty good at this sport.
Yeah, I guess taking second place at America's Strongest Man wasn't good enough reason for him to think that I was good at the sport. But that's when I was like, oh, maybe I could jump up to the heavyweights.
Yeah.
And my final contest in the 105s was that World's Strongest Man for the 105s in 2016. I had the worst cut of my life. It was in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Absolutely miserable. I couldn't put any weight back on after I had made weight. And that was kind of the moment where I looked at Joey and I was like, yeah, this is going to be it. I'm going to go up to the heavyweights. We'll see what happens. And I had no expectations of, the next year going to World's Strongest Man.
Yeah, I mean, your rise as a super heavyweight has been very, very quick. Because, like you say, I mean, going from the under 105 category, I guess it's hard for me to understand because I've never competed in an under 105 contest. But I do train some under 105s, and obviously I understand the process of weight cutting from my fighting background. But it does get harder and harder. And I think you eventually, if you keep doing it, you slow down your progress.
Yeah, for me, my final like aha moment was when we had landed in Dublin and we had a 2-hour bus ride up to Belfast. It was July, it was hot, there was no aircon on the bus and the windows didn't open. And I'm at the point of I was about 22 hours with no food or water. And I just got this unbelievable nausea on this bus ride
Yeah.
and ended up puking in a used McDonald's cup that I found on the bus. And it was at that moment that I looked at Joey. I was like, this is it. This is the last time I'm doing this.
Yeah.
'Cause, I didn't see the benefit after that. I was at the highest stage of the 105 class. I have the world log press record in that weight class. And, for me, I was just kind of tapped out. So that's why I decided to jump up to the heavyweight division after that and just kind of see where I went. And like I said, I didn't have any expectations, let alone, I didn't think that I'd be at World's Strongest Man the next year.
So so when you won the log lifting record, what did you hit on the log?
So I hit 202.5 at a
Okay.
body weight of 112.
Wow. And then you did 214 at it was at, well, the log lifting championships. It was part of Europe's Strongest Man, I believe.
Yep.
Last year.
Yeah. So the American record there with 214, and then like I said, I also have the 105 world record in the log press with I pressed 186 at 105.
That's incredible. But I mean, you've started to be known as a log expert, and people have criticised the way you do the log with your split jerk. But in strongman, there's no rule saying that you can't do that. But you've really over the last few years shown that you're not a one trick pony. I mean, you pulled, was it 440 Wembley?
Yeah. So that's still my best deadlift to date.
440 kilo deadlift is huge, just shy of, it's not far off 1,000 pounds for the American guys listening. You're exceptional at events like the yoke. We've had a few head to heads. I mean, at World's Strongest Man last year, you were unbelievable on that yoke, that heavy thing that probably has ended my career. You just made it look easy, whereas everyone else was just kind of stumbling and barely moving it. You put in a hell of performance. And then possibly your greatest performance so far was winning the Arnolds in Australia in front of the legend himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You went over there and you won in the heavyweight class. Is it fair to say that's your biggest achievement so far in terms of strongman results?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely my biggest win by far. I mean, that was a weekend that it was actually what I wasn't even supposed to go to that contest originally. It was one of my sponsors at the time. They said they were going to be there and they offered to help pay my way. So I was able to get in and compete that way. And it just so happened that the events were perfect for me. And I had the best competition of my life. It was, to go against guys like Matthias Belsac, Shivlikov, Jerry Pritchett. I mean, the lineup was stacked.
Yeah.
And, was able to pull out the win at that show. And it was surreal. I think we look at the big strongman contests in our sport, where there's World's Strongest Man, there's the Arnold Strongman Classic, and now there's World's Ultimate Strongman.
Yeah.
And, with the new qualifying system of the Arnold, it is hard as hell to get into that show.
Yeah.
So to win the first qualifier of the year was surreal and so exciting.
So for those that don't know about the Arnolds, they have qualifiers throughout the world. There's the Australian, there's a European one, South Africans, South American. There's a couple of others as well, and you have to be a winner of one of those shows to qualify or be the defending champion. That's the only way of qualifying. Is that correct? And also the amateur Arnold's winner, I think, gets an invite for the following year.
Yeah, and then the final two places are given to the points accumulated through the series.
Yeah.
So if you travel to all the international shows, you accumulate points at each competition.
I mean, just to show how hard it is to qualify. Brian Shaw failed to qualify this year, and he's been arguably, pretty much the top strongman for the last 10 years. So it shows how hard the qualifying system is. And
this was the he missed in 11 years.
Wow. And how did you find competing at the Arnolds? It was your first Arnold's, wasn't it?
It was my first time. It was crazy. It was a weird Arnold this year.
Just the start of all the pandemic.
But it was amazing. I mean, it's arguably the top 10 guys in the world competing at this show. The events were hard. The first event having that trial by stone event, which was every single strongman event rolled into one. You had to clean and press 2 stones, load 2 stones, and then there was a carry as well.
Wow.
And it was a 5-minute time cap. So it's an extremely long event, painful. And it was just, the entire contest was run so well. And it was just, It was hard, you know. I mean, it was some events were weak for me. You know, obviously there was a sandbag toss, which, you know, I'm
Giving
not
away
gonna.
about 10 foot to to Thor or someone like that.
Yeah, you know, so like that's always been a weak event of mine. And you know, the one event that really surprised me was that frame carry where I barely could even pick it up.
Yeah.
Um, and that really was a bummer for me. You know, my
Was that
grip
was that
is,
up the ramps? Yeah.
yeah, you know, my grip is weird. If I'm in that, you know, 350-pound per hand range, so like that 150 to 160 kilo per hand, I'm usually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's once we get over that, kind of in that 180 per hand, or, you know, the frame at the Arnold was 400 kilos.
Yeah.
That's where things kind of get a little sketchy for me. Unfortunately, that's what happened at the Arnold. Is it was the fifth event we had for the contest. So, you know, prior to that, on day one, we had that trial by stone, then the sandbag toss, then the wheel of pain. Day two started
That
with the
looks brutal. That wheel of pain. It's one
so
event I'd love to have a go on, but it does look like it would just zap every bit of energy you have.
it's one of those really deceiving events because the first like 20 to 30 seconds aren't that bad. We're in your head, you're like, oh, I got this. I can motor. This is fine. And then a wall hits
Yeah.
and it just smacks you in the face harder than anything. Shoulders are burning, your quads are burning, you can't breathe because your head is pushed down. I mean, it's an awkward position and it just hurts. Um, I mean, you know, there's a reason why at the end of that event they have a chair and an oxygen tank ready for each athlete, because it just takes everything out of you.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a fair share of strongman comps and things like truck pulls and those type of things. You are just dying, but that you can just see from watching. I was watching the live stream, and every single athlete just looked absolutely spent at the end of it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the surprising thing is like how taxing it is on the upper body. When I first started training for the event, you know, I would actually take the Exergenie truck pull simulator, attach it to a yoke, and then push the yoke
Yeah.
with the extra genie behind me to add some extra tension. And my first few training sessions, I couldn't believe how fatigued my shoulders were after doing it. And that's something that I ended up needing to train for, you know, going into that event. Um, but, you know, and then we look at day two of the Arnold, starting off with a max deadlift, which I think was a lot harder for everybody than we initially thought. You know, going into that, I was hoping to pull 1,000 pounds, you know, or that 455 kilo mark. And I was on par to do it. I was feeling really good, but I don't think I realized how taxed I would be after day one and really underperformed on the deadlift. That's for sure.
I think a lot of people watching sometimes don't realize how taxing a full contest can be. And particularly events, there's certain events that don't take so much out of you, particularly if you're good at them. So, for instance, like a lighter yoke for you and me, it's almost like a rest event because we get it done in 10 seconds. But if
Yeah.
you're under something for a minute, minute and a half, or events like you said at the Arnolds, they had like a 5 minute time limit on the stones, and then you're doing that wheel of pain. These are the type of events that just start to drain you. Things like shield carries, they really take a lot out of your whole body. A lot of events for reps, particularly if you're good and you can push to those higher end reps, it's then managing your energy levels for the whole contest. And I particularly in my earlier days, I remember doing a competition against a good friend of yours, Derek Poundstone. Derek, we'll talk about Derek in a minute and how you kind of started working with him. But I did when I was sort of just coming onto the scene, I did a Giants live show in Ukraine. And Derek was by far the heavy favorite for the contest. And I was in really good shape. And I think I surprised him by I was really, really in good shape. I dominated the first kind of half of the contest. But by the second half of the contest, I'd expended all my energy. I'd had to give everything to put, the 100% effort in. And my body just started to break down. And I didn't have the energy then to kind of maintain that win. And it's something I had to learn as I got older, where to hold back a little bit and where to push. And it is something that sometimes people watching a show that haven't competed can't sort of grasp that side of strongman where each event takes more and more out of you. So you could be capable of a lot more in the gym, for instance, but if it's the fifth or sixth event and your body's spent, you're going to massively underperform.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what happened with me on day 2 of the Arnold. I had a pretty disappointing performance on the deadlift. Frame was even worse. And then the dumbbell is something I should have done better at. I went into the Arnold with the goal of placing top 5. Going into the dumbbell, I was in 4th place. So I was in prime position. I was actually close to the podium as well, and knew from training and warm-ups even that I was capable of doing something pretty awesome. And with the way that the dumbbell was set up this year is, you could pick any weight you wanted to and jump up or down, kind of, and the highest weight or number of reps at that weight would place higher in the points. So I went in conservatively, pressing the Louis Cyr dumbbell. That's 274 pounds, hit it for a pretty good single. Then I think I jumped up to like 300 and I missed.
Okay.
And then I jumped down to like 285 and I missed. And then I was like, well, okay, I need to try to get one more rep for more points to stay in the top 5. And I missed the Louis Cyr dumbbell again. And that dropped me down to in a tie for 6th with Mikhail Shivlikov. So I think my performance wasn't bad. I can't be upset with a 6th place finish at the Arnold, but I definitely found a lot of things that I can improve upon. And, it's funny that I've been in the sport for 11 years and competing at this level pretty at a high level for, almost, 3 full years now. And
Yeah.
I'm still learning at every contest, things that I can get better at.
If
And
you
that's
don't keep learning from every single contest you do, then you're going to go backwards. And
yes.
if I can give you a little bit of advice, it is, learn from every single contest you do. The minute you stop learning is the minute you're going to start going downhill. And you've proved. I really like your philosophy of just focusing on the little goals, just setting yourself the next target and the next target, and not having a limit on, like, not having a cap on what's potentially possible. It's something, again, I reiterate to clients and to youngsters looking into the sport. Set your ultimate goal as high as you like, but then you've got to be smart in terms of how you're going to break those goals down. So one thing Rob did excellently was, first comp you came last, and then you're setting yourself goal of, right, I don't want to come last, I don't want to zero on an event. Then it was like, right, I'm going to try and get mid-table, then I'm going to try and get top 3. Suddenly you're just getting better and better each year, and you got to the point where suddenly you're kind of aiming for records, American records, then world records. Then you're moving up to the heavyweights. Then you're placing mid-table in the open shows, and every year you've just got better and better. It's a brilliant philosophy. I love the way you do it, and I think if you're smart and you keep going, you'll just keep chipping away and improving each year.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's what keeps the sport exciting for me, and it keeps me motivated because the goals I set for myself, I know I can do. Like my 2 goals that I'm working on right now are top 10 at World's Strongest Man, top 5 at the Arnold. This past year at Worlds, I just narrowly missed making the finals. I almost beat Thor by 1 point in our qualifying group, and then had the stone over bar battle with Luke.
Yeah.
So I just barely missed making the top 10. And then again at the Arnold, won a top 5, I come in 6th. So my goals haven't changed. And that's one thing that people need to realize too, is like, just because I don't achieve them after a certain contest doesn't mean they change. They stay the same for another year or until I get the chance to reach them. And, people ask me all the time if I think I'll win Worlds, if they think I'll win the Arnold, like all that stuff. And my answer honestly is, I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Well,
could happen.
I think every single athlete, their goal, we all want to win World's Strongest Man. We all want to win, the Arnolds. Those big titles are why we do it. But I'm similar to yourself, and it's always about, or it certainly was about getting better and improving, and not giving up. I mean, you've had setbacks. We've all had setbacks, but the minute you give up, you're never going to achieve any of those goals. It's about putting yourself in the situation, training, becoming as good as you can possibly be, and then giving it your all on comp day. That's what it's all about. And then if it doesn't go how it was supposed to go back to the drawing board and focus on improving. That's always the goal. You should be focusing on self-improvement, and eventually, who knows how high you can get. I mean, you've gone from an under 90 kilo athlete to one of the top strength athletes on the planet. Who's to say you can't keep getting better? You seem motivated. You seem driven. Let's talk about how you met Derek Poundstone, because he's your coach right now, isn't he?
Yeah, so Derek and I, we actually have a pretty long history. I actually met him back in 2009, when he was the top American. I mean, one of the top in the world. That's the year that he just barely missed beating Marius and the Stones for the World's Strongest Man title. He'd won the Arnold that year. And so I was living in Connecticut at the time, about 90 minutes from where he lives. After seeing him compete at World's Strongest Man, and I had done my first contest by then, I was like, oh, well, I mean, let me see if I could train with him and, kind of see what that situation is like. And he had a massive training crew on Saturdays where there would be almost 30 people there to train with him. And everybody was there for Derek. They would do their events and their workouts around what he was doing that day. So that was kind of my first introduction to him. And we had stayed in touch here and there over the years. And I would say probably 2013 was the first time I had asked him to coach me. And that was because at the time, my coach was actually Mike Jenkins.
Okay.
He was actually my coach when I turned pro, when I won the amateur national championship, and then unfortunately passed away a few weeks after.
Mike was awesome. Just such an incredible man, an incredible athlete, very knowledgeable, and someone. I'm glad I got to spend time with him because he was just a really genuinely cool guy.
Absolutely amazing. And so I really didn't know where to go coaching wise after that. And I'd reach out to Derek, and he was still on the fence about whether he was going to come back and competing because he'd taken some time off for injury and decided not to. So I was like, okay, work my way through some other coaches. And probably about 2016 or 2017, I asked him again, and he turned me down again.
It sounds like the kickboxer story. You're trying to go and get this kind of illustrious coach that doesn't work with anyone anymore. You just got to keep badgering him till he says yes.
And then 2018, the summer of 2018 is when it was actually right after my contest with you that I got injured. When you and I were battling at North America's, I had gotten injured and I was coming off that injury, and I really was just kind of at a low point and I didn't know what else to do. I was coaching myself at that time and I felt like I needed something more. That's when I reached out to Derek and I finally got him to say yes. And we've been working together ever since. And it's been so surreal for me because Derek was my idol, getting into the sport. He's the guy I looked to and, kind of emulated everything off of him. So to now consider him one of my closest friends and my coach is absolutely amazing. The fact that he gets so excited for how I do is like, it's just surreal. It's absolutely crazy. Even to be here talking with you right now is still surreal to me.
Well, we've competed a few times against each other. I mean, we've battled, like you say, at the North American. Unfortunately, you got that rib injury on the last event. We've had battles at World's Strongest Man, but I'm coming to the end now. I'm quite happy just talking and watching you guys develop. I really enjoyed my strongman career, but I've just got to that point where in my head I'm not as hungry as I used to be, and I've had to admit it to myself because it was hard. A couple of years ago, I sort of achieved some big results. I won Europe's and I won the Ultimate Strongman World title. I broke a few world records, and then I picked up a few more injuries. And I've got kids and a family and other things. And I think the injuries on top of that, I tried to keep coming back, but my body was sort of making it harder and harder. And I sort of, after Worlds last year, that was the real kind of low point for me. It was just like, do I keep putting my body through it, even though it doesn't perform how it used to? And I'm convinced I was always good at adapting and finding a way. When you're mentally strong, you find a way. But I've sort of accepted that now I want to help the next generation. I want to promote strongman. I want to see guys like yourself do well, guys like the Stoltmans. And because when I started strongman, it wasn't how it is today. And it's still not where it needs to be. And I want to see it keep growing so you guys kind of, get the most out of it. And hopefully I can build a platform like this where real strength fans can kind of come to and I can be involved still. But I'm happy to sort of step back and enjoy watching you younger boys now compete, because it's been an amazing experience. The chance to go all over the world, compete, meet some incredible people, and I loved every minute of it, even the downs. I look back now, and because the negative things make the positive so much better. So
Absolutely.
when we competed head to head at the Giants Live North American Open. I could see we had a great battle that day, and unfortunately you picked up an injury right at the end, and I know what that feels like. But I said to you there and then, you'll be back, and you did. You came back, you won the Arnold's Australia, and that's what I always try and get across to people, is to never give up, because you're so close. Sometimes when you kind of have those downs, those disappointments, you're so close to the most, successful moments of your life. But if you decide to kind of back off and not try and keep pursuing it, they're never going to happen. And I had this conversation with Zadrunas. He had a terrible injury, blew out both of his knees before he'd ever won World's Strongest Man or the Arnolds. If he'd given up then, no one would even remember him.
Yeah. And I think, going back to that injury, that was the best thing to happen in my career, which is weird to say. It's weird to say that an injury was the best thing to happen. But it kind of gave me a different outlook and a perspective on the sport. It taught me how to be a better strongman, how to take care of my body a little bit better. And it made me more focused. It really just kind of lit this fire under me that I realized that I could be good. Like I had a win at North America's the year before.
Yep.
Really hopeful that I could win North America's against you that year. And I mean, heck, going into the Stones in the last event, I think I was 1 point behind you. So the battle was there, and it was kind of there for the taking. And I think having that injury helped kind of revamp my excitement for the sport. And like you said, I mean, the next contest I came back to was the Arnold in Australia, and I won. So, it's weird how we look back at injuries and how it kind of shapes our career afterwards.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, how many I've had. And it's funny now when I see people get injured. Obviously, I'm upset for them because I don't like seeing anyone get injured. But I always know this is going to be the test of whether they're going to really make it or not. Because to go away, to learn from it, and that's the important thing, is to learn. Why did you get injured, firstly? Then rehab properly. Then plan your training around it so you can come back as a better athlete. And as long as you're learning from it, as long as you're improving, you can take it as a positive. It's only if you give up and you let that, knock you down forever, that you're never gonna, evolve and be the athlete that you could be.
Absolutely.
Go on.
No, that was it.
Yeah, cool. So what I want to kind of move on to, you are the world's strongest gay. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about that. That's part of your life because it's a big thing with you. You kind of identify as the world's strongest gay. To me, you've always just been Rob. If I'm honest with you, to me, you're Rob. You're one of my competitors. You're one of my friends, and it's never been anything more than that. But I do understand that not everyone has that approach. So I just wanted to ask what the sport's been like for you. I mean, I know most strongmen are pretty laid back. We're all we're all a little bit camp. I've got a glittery beard on today that the missus just put on me. She thinks that she wants me to, well, probably if it doesn't make a mess everywhere, she'd let me keep it. But I think she'll be worried about the glitter everywhere in the house. But how have the fans been? I mean, I know you went on the Joe Rogan podcast. That's been, an amazing experience for you. But tell me about being a gay man in Strongman, and tell me about talking to Joe as well, because they're two big.
Yeah. So for me, coming out back in 2014, I was I was an established pro in the 105. So I had already been competing, and I had met some great people in the sport. And for me, it was I came out for two big reasons. Like, one, for myself to finally live as my true self, and two, because I was in a relationship with Joey at that time, and he had been out for a few years, and I didn't feel it was fair to him to be dating somebody. We're in our early 20s, and he shouldn't be dating somebody who's still closeted. So I came out and really had no expectations. I didn't think it would be this like viral international sensation that it turned into, because pretty quickly overnight, we were getting a lot of media requests from people like Huffington Post, TMZ, Conan had talked about us. It was crazy. And within the sport, it was absolutely but nothing but positive messages of love and acceptance. And obviously there were some people, that don't understand the culture of the sport that said some pretty mean and hateful things. But that wasn't at the pro level. That was more like at the amateur level, people that were just getting into the sport, and they had their thoughts about it. I think the coolest part about it, and one of my most vivid memories, was actually at World's Strongest Man in 2017, where it was the second or third day of the competition, and we were getting ready to do that elephant carry. And Terry Hollins had come up. You and I had talked already, and it was, like you said, to you, it was nothing. I actually don't even think you brought it up. But from what I remember, Terry was the first person that kind of just sat down next to me and just wanted to learn about me.
Yeah.
Which to me, as I was 25 at that time, had just kind of got to the heavyweight scene, had seen Terry on TV for years. For him to have this genuine interest about me was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And that's just how the sport's been. All the guys have been awesome. Everybody, it's funny if I go to a contest and Joey isn't there, people's first reaction is, where's Joey? They don't say hi to me first.
Yeah.
So there's just it really has just been amazing and so supportive. And, and then going on the Joe Rogan podcast was just, unbelievable. It kind of completely changed the trajectory of my career. We look at social media as it's one of the big driving forces in how we live our lives now.
Yeah.
And that one appearance, just kind of put me over the top and led me to some pretty big sponsorship deals, which is really exciting.
Awesome. He's had a few guys on his show now, hasn't he? He's had yourself, he's had Robert Oberst, and it's great for Strongman to be getting that kind of recognition. And you yourself, when you won the Arnolds in Australia, you had Arnold Schwarzenegger himself posting about you, being supportive about your victories. And I believe you and Joey actually got married down there, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. So I won the contest on the Saturday. And then the next day we actually had our wedding planned in Australia, which was absolutely amazing.
That must have been an incredible, well, probably arguably, I guess that was the best weekend of your life, surely.
Absolutely. The thing was, we planned the wedding literally only about 3 weeks before we left for the trip.
Yeah.
And to me, it was, no matter what, it was going to be an amazing weekend. No matter how the contest turned out, I was getting married. And that's all I really cared about and thought about. Winning the contest was just the icing on the cake, to have the prize money and then the qualification for the Arnold. But to me, it was just like the weekend was just, it was a dream. It's stuff that you hear about that doesn't seem real. Arnold rented a $50 million yacht for us to go out on the night. And took us on a tour of the city of Melbourne, and then took us out to dinner afterwards. And just like, it just seemed fake. And after that evening, when we were walking back from the restaurant, I'll never forget, Joey looked at me, he goes, "So it's kind of all downhill from here, isn't it?"
You can't top that. That definitely is. Yeah, that's the
there.
pinnacle. What an amazing way, I guess, to spend that weekend. You got married to the man you love. You won a huge international contest, and you're spending the evening with, I think, every single person that's into strongman, bodybuilding, powerlifting. We all at one time would have looked up to Arnold as a figure that we kind of all looked up to, and to see how kind of cool he is with, he's just pretty easygoing guy. He's laid back. He supports all the guys that are doing these sports. Obviously, with his sports festival is coming to the UK actually, which is going to be, I'm excited for that. It's really nice to see, and just the fact that Strongman is growing so much is good to see. Guys like yourself, guys like the Stoltmans, there's, we've got the Thors and the Eddies, but the newer kind of breed of guys, it's nice to see. And there's so many new impressive athletes coming through as well that you're going to have to look out for. We've got a young guy called Luke Richardson from the UK. He's exceptionally good. I think, he's about to come onto everyone's radar. And I'm sure all over the world, there's these kind of young guys training hard, motivated by guys like yourself, and just getting better and better. The sport is evolving fast. It's incredible.
It's an amazing time to be a strongman athlete, and I think it's athletes like those, like Luke Richardson and other athletes that are up and coming, that help motivate us guys that are, kind of in the beginning of our pro career, and kind of excelling to get better. When I see Luke post a deadlift video of him pulling 380 for sets of 5 and barely breaking a sweat, my first reaction is I get pissed off. My second, I need to deadlift.
Yes, I remember those days. I've thought those thoughts about you. I was like, I'm not letting this little guy beat me on the yoke. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. Now I'm quite happy to let you have it now. I'll sit back and watch it. Right, buddy. Last thing we're going to talk about is just, obviously this year has been very awkward. It's been strange for everyone, because we would have had some major contests already this year. I know you managed to get the Arnolds in, but then we should have had, Europe's Strongest Man. Guys were supposed to be going to Bahrain for a big contest. There's so many big sporting events, not just in strongman, obviously all sports, that have just come to a standstill. So how have you remained motivated with your training, and what are the next goals for you? I know you've got the World Ultimate Strongman we spoke about this weekend, where you're going for the log record, which will be on ESPN live for American fans and for those around the world on coresports.world. But other than the log record, what plans do you have for this year?
It really just all depends on what the heck happens. For me, I was actually in a place after the Arnold where I was pretty unmotivated to train because we didn't know what the landscape of the sport was going to look like. So when I got the call from the guys at World's Ultimate Strongman, it got me excited again to start training,
Yeah.
which was great. And so we have the event this coming weekend, and who knows? It looks like things are starting to open up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was really bummed that this pandemic hit because this was one of the first years that as strongman athletes, we could look at the calendar year and actually plan out our entire competition season.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that really ever happening. I could look from January to November and know what dates, where I was going to be, and when I was competing. And that, obviously this whole pandemic kind of threw a wrench into the plans. As of right now, World's Strongest Man is still set to be in November in Florida. As long as I can get an invite to go, I will be there. But again, that's another weird situation because we don't know who's going to get an invite at this point. There's only 11 qualified athletes, I believe, that have qualified through
Yeah.
Worlds last year and then the previous Giants live shows.
It's a really
And
strange situation right now. I think
yeah,
Worlds is the only contest I can really see happening, because all the other contests that involve large crowds, Worlds is a made for TV show. So I see that being possible. But the Giants live shows at the moment, until we, maybe I'm hoping to speak to Darren Sadler and find out exactly from the man himself kind of what the plans are going forward. Because I'm sure he's a proactive man. I'm sure he will make things happen. But I know athletes like yourself, fans, we want to know what's going to happen. We want Strongman back on the TV. And you just said yourself, the World Ultimate Strongman, kind of the feats that they've been doing, it gave you that motivation back. So I've had this argument with people because there's a lot of people saying it shouldn't be, does it count, doesn't it count? I think forget that side of it. Let's look at the entertainment side of it. Let's look at the motivational side of it. Let's look at the positives that we can take from it, because it's either that or it's been nothing.
Yep.
And you as an athlete yourself have just said it motivated you to get back in the gym, which I think is a good thing,
Yeah, and not to mention it gives people, like you said, something entertaining to watch. People can say all they want about, oh, it's, a home gym, this and that. But I mean, if anything, as you've been watching it and commentating every single week, it's arguably more legitimate than some of the comps we've gone to. With the fact that we're weighing the implements live on TV, weighing the weights, making sure it's all legit, it makes it unbelievably legitimate with these lifts that these athletes are doing.
Definitely.
So I think it's going to be, I'm excited for this coming weekend. What's going to be cool is, you're going to be commentating with Derek, which is going to be fun. I told him the biggest thing is to make sure he shuts up so they can put because I'm sure you've gotten stuck in a few conversations with him.
I've had a number of conversations. He's another guy I really want to get on the show, so hopefully we can make that happen. But I'm looking forward to chatting to him again. He was a great athlete, and I'm sure he puts you through some hellish workouts, knowing how hard a worker he was.
It's unbelievable. It's every single week he comes up with something new, twisted, and sadistic training that I don't know where he comes up with this stuff. And it just hurts and it's painful, but it works. I'm one of those people that the reason I look to a coach is because I don't like to think for myself. I can sit there and program for athletes all day and I have no problem doing it. But when it comes time to actually doing the dirty work for myself, I don't want to do it. But whereas if Derek sends me a program, I'm going to do everything on that piece of paper to a T.
Yeah.
I'll bitch about it. I'll moan about it. I'll complain about it.
It is. I think having a coach is a good thing, no matter what the level of athlete you are, or how experienced you are yourself as a coach. I coach a lot of people, but I enjoy having someone plan my training so that I can just go to the gym, get on with it, and not think about it. Just get on, do what you're told, and it works perfectly.
Absolutely.
Right, Rob, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate having you on. Best of luck this weekend with the log attempts. I will be screaming on down the commentary mic for you. I'm sure you'll get it. You're looking in great form, and best of luck for the rest of the season. Thank you again for coming on, mate. You take care.
Thank you so much, Laz. I appreciate it, man.
Cool. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you follow Rob on social media. I will put his links down below. We will see you next time with another interview with a strongman legend. Take care.